Hi everyone, today I'm going to take the harmony that I completed last week when I did the harmony in 10 minutes, and now we're going to take the same harmony and dress it up and make it all fancy, and we're going to add some tricks. We've got passing notes, neighbour notes, suspensions, and even seventh chords. We might try and do that. All right, let's start with passing notes. What is a passing note? Well, a passing note is a note that steps in between two notes that are a third apart. So they're really easy to add. So wherever we have within a voice two notes that are a third apart, then we can add a passing note. Now, for example, if we have a look here at the tenor voice, well, it's going from the B up to the D. So I can add a passing note. So I turn the crotchet into a quaver, and then that allows me to add a stepping tone in between off the beat. And then melodically, this tenor voice can now step from the B to the D, but via the C off the beat, creating a scale run. So that's all it is, and so we can go on a passing note fest here, and so wherever we see two notes a third apart, so for example E up to G, that's perfect. There's a F sharp in between, so we can do the same there. So let's go on a passing note frenzy. And whoops, we need an F sharp there, we're in G major. I've got all the accidentals here, but that's right. Where else can we do? Oh, I can see a bit of a go up here in the soprano part. Now, look, honestly, normally if you were doing a harmony question, you wouldn't be allowed to do this because you can't change the melody that you're given. But for now, who cares? We will just add as many little fancy details as we possibly can. All right, okay, so there's some passing notes. Have I missed any? There's another one. Wouldn't want to miss any. There we go. Beautiful stuff. Okay, now we need some neighbour notes. Now, a neighbour note is where you step away from a note and then return back to the same one. So wherever you see two notes the same, there's an opportunity to add a neighbour note. So watch this done. We're going to take the alto part here, the G, and we're going to step up to the A off the beat, and then it returns back to the G. So that is a neighbour note. So a neighbour note launches off from a particular note, steps up, or it could step down. But in this case, I've stepped up. I'll tell you why in a second. Step up, and then it returns back to the previous note. So it's gone G, stepped up to the A, and then back to the G. All right, that's a neighbour note. Now, the reason I stepped up, because you can step down, but the reason I stepped up is because it follows, the alto voice now follows the bass voice in thirds, creating that little bit of extra harmony. Otherwise, I'd be creating a consecutive octave. So when you do add passing notes, watch out for consecutives even off the beat, because we don't, or parallel octaves. Okay, so that's a passing note. All right, now suspensions. Okay, so what happens is we have a suspension when we sustain the note from one chord and hold it going into the next chord, creating a dissonance, and then it resolves by stepping down. So we're just looking at this in a very simple, basic way. So the most common type of suspension is 4/3, particularly at a cadence point. So I'm going to do a 4/3 suspension here. Now, the alto voice here is on the third of the chord. And so we end up with a formula. I'll write this formula down. Consonant on the weak beat, dissonant on the strong beat, followed then by consonant on the weak beat. Here, let's put the 4 to 3 up there. All right, so we've got, so on the second beat of the bar, strong beats are beats 1 and 3, weak beats 2 and 4. So we've got the consonants. So here we have chord 1 and we've got the B and the G. So all these notes fit with the chord 1. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this third of the chord. So D, F sharp, A is chord 5. And I'm going to move the third up to the 4th. And I'm going to turn it into a crotchet. And now I've got this 4th. So I've got the chord of D, but it doesn't have the F sharp anymore. The F sharp, this F sharp, I'll show you, this F sharp has been moved up to the G, which is now the 4th above the D. All right, so this is what we call a sus chord, by the way, where if you're looking at chords, you don't have the third, you have the 4th instead of the third. So here I have the 4th instead of the 3rd, and what I'm going to do to create a suspension is I'm going to add a tie. So the G in the alto is being tied to this G, so this G is lingering over from the previous chord, and now that's going to resolve by stepping down. Oops, that needs to be an F sharp. So that finally resolves now. And by the end of this 4th beat, we've got the full chord 5 triad. All right, so I'm going to play all of this at the end so that you can hear what we've done to the harmony. Okay, so that's a suspension. Now I'm going to come up to the end of this harmony. And I'm going to do a trick. So this is chord 2 in first inversion. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a 7th to the chord. So chord 2 is E, C, A. All right, that's chord 2. Let's put this up there. So there's chord 2. And we've got A, C, E, and what we're going to do, C is the 3rd, E is the 5th, and what we're going to do is add a 7th, a G. So we can always work out what the 7th is. Now, of course, this chord here is in first inversion on this 4th beat of the 4th bar. So, sorry, first beat of the 4th bar. So I'm going to move the alto up to the G. And that's actually going to create, so this is going to be a 7 to 6 suspension, but I'm going to hold it and resolve it onto chord 5. So I'm going to tie that, creating now a 7th, which in traditional harmony was a dissonant note. And that's going to fall to the F sharp to the 3rd. Now, we did have that. So now I'm going to move the tenor up to the E, which is the 5th of the chord, because I'm going to add a 7th here on the dominant chord. So the dominant chord is, so it's A, F sharp, D, which is chord 5. So there's chord 5, D, F sharp, A, but of course I'm going to add a 7th, which is the C. So I've put the C into the tenor voice. And now they're a third apart here, and guess what? I'm going to add a passing note. There we go. Now, just to be fancy, because that's what we're trying to do. We're going to create a 4-3 suspension on the end here. So the B is the third of chord 1. Let's push that up. So start with the dissonant chord, push the third up to the 4th. You can see which note it can tie, and then we need to turn that into a crotchet, and then it needs to resolve down to the 3rd. So there we go. Now we're looking at a beautiful harmony with lots of movements. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the original, and then I'm going to play the new fandangled fancy one. All right, so I'll put them up and you can listen to them, okay, and see the effect. All right, I'll see you next time.